The innocent question. The twin suns were sinking low on the horizon, painting the alien sky with strange colors. The human traveler, Daniel, walked slowly into the quiet village, his boots pressed against the dusty ground, and every step echoed in the silence. Alien eyes followed him from behind cracked doors and broken windows. The air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Daniel had been traveling for days after his shuttle broke down outside this remote settlement. He needed food, water, and maybe help to repair his ship. But the way the villagers looked at him told him one thing clearly: he was not welcome here. Still, he pushed forward, his tired body demanding rest. Children peeked from behind walls, whispering in a language Daniel couldn't fully understand. The adults pulled them back quickly, as if the human was some kind of danger. Daniel frowned, wondering why they feared him so much. He had seen many alien worlds, but this village felt different. There was something unspoken hanging in the air, something tense. At the center of the square, he stopped and looked around. The villagers were gathered, pretending to go about their tasks but keeping their eyes on him. A bucket slipped from someone's hand, clattering against the stone, and the sound made everyone flinch. Then, a small voice broke the silence. "Human, are you single?" Daniel blinked, turning his head. Standing in front of him was a small alien child, her eyes wide, her tiny hands clenched together. The villagers gasped loudly, whispers racing through the crowd like fire. The human stared, confused. "What?" The little girl took a shaky step forward. Her voice trembled, but her words were clear. "My mom's really kind. You have to marry her." Daniel froze, his mind raced. He had expected fear, suspicion, maybe even anger from these people, but not this. Not a child standing before him begging for something so strange. The villagers began to laugh, but it wasn't the laughter of joy. It was sharp, mocking, cruel. Their eyes turned toward the girl with pity and scorn. Some shook their heads, others muttered insults under their breath. Daniel's chest tightened. He could see the girl trembling. Her bravery had already begun to fade, yet she lifted her chin, staring at him with a desperate hope that pierced straight into his heart. "Why? Why would you ask me that?" Daniel asked softly, trying not to frighten her. "Because," the girl whispered, "no one here will marry my mom. They say she doesn't deserve it. They say we should be thrown out. But you're different. Please, human, please marry her, or they'll send us away." The square fell silent again. No one laughed this time. All eyes shifted to Daniel, waiting for his response. Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came. He glanced around, and the villagers' expressions told him everything. They despised the girl's mother. They despised the child too. And now, by speaking to him, they would despise him as well. The girl's eyes shimmered with tears, but she did not run. She stood there, small and fragile, but refusing to back down. Daniel felt something stir inside him, anger at the cruelty and confusion at the request. From the shadows, a tall figure emerged. Her steps were hesitant, her head bowed low, her arms were covered in faint scars, her clothes worn thin. The girl turned quickly. "Mom?" she whispered. The woman's voice broke. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She bowed before Daniel, not lifting her gaze. "Please forgive my child. She doesn't understand. She speaks nonsense." But Daniel could see it wasn't nonsense. He could see the way the woman's shoulders shook, the way her hands trembled. She was ashamed, yet also afraid, and the villagers looked at her with nothing but disgust. The child grabbed her mother's hand and shouted, "It's not nonsense. He's kind, I can feel it. He won't laugh at you, he won't hate you like they do." The woman gasped, pulling her daughter close, but the words were already spoken. Everyone had heard them. Daniel felt the weight of dozens of stares pressing down on him. His throat tightened. He had stumbled into something far bigger than he imagined. He had come looking for shelter, but what he found was a plea for survival. The mother whispered again, her voice breaking, "Please, human, forget what she said. Just leave us be. It's better this way." Daniel looked at her, then at the child clinging to her side. His heart pounded as the villagers waited, some with smirks, others with dark glares. He realized this wasn't just an innocent question. It was the beginning of something dangerous, and in that moment, he had a choice. Walk away and leave them to their fate, or step into their world and change everything. The little girl's voice echoed once more, soft but unshaken. "Please, marry my mom." Daniel drew a deep breath, his eyes locking on the girl's desperate face. He didn't yet know what his answer would mean, but he knew one thing: his life would never be the same again. The child's desperation. The night in the alien village was cold. The twin suns had vanished, leaving the land under a blanket of pale blue starlight. Daniel sat near a small fire outside the hut they had given him. The flames danced quietly, but the silence around him felt heavier than before. He could still hear the child's words repeating in his head, "Please, marry my mom." He rubbed his hands together, trying to make sense of what had happened. Why would a child ask something so strange from a stranger? Why did the villagers laugh at them with such cruelty? Questions circled his mind, but no answers came. Only the memory of the girl's trembling voice and the mother's ashamed face. A soft sound made him turn. Tiny footsteps crunched on the dry dirt, and the little alien girl appeared again. Her eyes glistened in the faint firelight. She hugged a small, worn blanket to her chest. "Why are you out here?" Daniel asked gently, his voice breaking the silence. She didn't answer at first. She just looked at him, as if searching for something in his face. Finally, she whispered, "Because I knew you wouldn't laugh at me." Daniel's chest tightened. He shifted to the side, making space by the fire. The girl slowly sat down, curling up with the blanket. Her small body trembled, not only from the cold, but from something deeper. "They're going to throw us out," she said suddenly. Her voice cracked like dry wood. "Tomorrow, or maybe the next day, the elders said it in the meeting. My mom tried to beg, but they wouldn't listen. They said we're cursed, that no man should ever marry her. That's why I asked you, human." Her words struck him like a blade. Daniel stared into the fire, the crackling flames reflecting in his tired eyes. He wanted to believe it wasn't true, but the way the villagers had treated them earlier made it clear the girl and her mother were living on borrowed time. He asked carefully, "Why do they hate your mother?" The girl hugged her blanket tighter. "Because she didn't obey. Because she refused one of the elders many years ago. He wanted her, but she said no. He was powerful, and she was just a worker. Since then, everyone treats us like dirt. They call her cursed. They say anyone who marries her will die." Daniel's jaw clenched. He had seen injustice before on many worlds, but hearing it from a child made it burn inside him. He glanced at her, and she was staring at him with those wide, desperate eyes again. "You don't even know me," Daniel said softly. "Why would you want me to marry your mom?" The girl leaned closer. Her voice shook, but it carried a strange strength. "Because you're different. You didn't look at us like the other. You didn't spit at us. You didn't laugh. I know you're kind. I can feel it. And if you marry her, they can't throw us out. The law says so." Daniel blinked. "Law?" She nodded quickly, her eyes brightening with a fragile hope. "Yes, the old law. It says if a stranger accepts someone as family, then the clan must honor it. Even the elders can't break it. But no one has ever dared. No one ever would, until you came." Daniel leaned back, his heart pounding. He hadn't asked for this. He just wanted food, water, and repairs. But now he was caught in something bigger than survival. A child had placed her future and her mother's into his hands. The fire crackled. The night stretched on. The girl finally leaned against him, her small body slowly relaxing, as if she had carried the weight of the whole world alone for too long. She whispered, "Please don't say no. Please don't leave us." Her words stayed in his ears long after her breathing slowed into sleep. Daniel looked down at her, her face peaceful now in the firelight. His fists tightened. He was a traveler, a wanderer. He never stayed in one place. Yet here was a child begging him not for money, not for food, but for her mother's dignity. At that moment, the door of the nearby hut creaked open. The alien mother stepped out. Her face was pale in the starlight, her eyes red from crying. When she saw her daughter asleep against Daniel, she gasped. "I told you to stay inside," she whispered harshly, walking toward them. She bent down, pulling the girl gently into her arms. Her voice broke as she looked at Daniel. "I'm sorry. She shouldn't trouble you. Please, forget everything she said." Daniel shook his head slowly. "She's not troubling me." The mother froze. Her lips parted as if she wanted to speak, but no words came. She simply hugged her daughter close, the scars on her arms visible again in the firelight. For a moment, their eyes met. His filled with silent questions, hers with endless pain. She turned quickly, retreating into the hut. The door shut with a dull thud. It crackled once more, and Daniel sat alone under the alien stars, his heart heavy, his thoughts storming. The child's desperation had pulled him into their struggle. Now he had to decide, would he walk away, or would he stand against a whole village for the sake of one mother and her child? The night answered with silence, but Daniel knew the decision would come soon, too soon. The mother's shame. Morning came with a pale light spreading across the village. The air was cold, and the people gathered early in the square as if waiting for something. Daniel stepped out of his small shelter, still tired from the restless night. He looked around, noticing the way every villager's eyes followed him. Some glared with open hate, others whispered among themselves. He had not forgotten the words of the child, nor the sorrow in her mother's eyes. His mind replayed them again and again. "Please marry my mom." It had been more than a question. It was a cry for help, a plea wrapped in desperation. The crowd stirred as the mother appeared. She walked slowly, her head bowed, her shoulders bent under a weight no one else could see. Her scars caught the early light, faint but undeniable. The child clung to her side, refusing to let go of her hand. The villagers began to sneer. One man spat on the ground as she passed. A woman whispered loud enough for all to hear, "Cursed blood, no man should touch her." Another laughed bitterly, "Even a human won't save you." The mother's face burned with shame, but she said nothing. Her eyes stayed on the ground. Her hand trembled as she pulled her daughter closer. The child looked up at her mother with tears forming, but the mother only tightened her grip as if to stop her from speaking. Daniel's chest ached as he watched. He could not understand how people could treat one of their own with such cruelty. He had seen wars, he had seen hunger, but this was different. This was slow, daily destruction of someone's spirit. The hidden law. The next morning the village gathered in the square. The air was heavy, filled with whispers. Every villager had come to see what the human would do. Some stood with folded arms, smirking. Others whispered warnings of curses and doom. Children were pulled back by their parents, as if Daniel carried sickness in his shadow. Daniel walked into the square, the little girl holding tightly to his hand. Her mother followed behind, her face pale and anxious. Her eyes begged him to stay silent, but Daniel had already chosen his path. The night before he had sworn he would not walk away, and now the time had come. The elder stepped forward, his long cloak dragging in the dust. His voice was sharp. "Human, you are a stranger here. You owe nothing to us, and we owe nothing to you, but you have allowed a cursed child to cling to you. Do you truly mean to share their shame?" Daniel looked around at the crowd. He could feel the eyes burning into him. He could feel the weight of their hatred pressing down. But he stood tall. His voice was calm. "I don't believe in your curse. I believe in kindness. This child begged me not to leave, and I will not. I will stand with them." Gasps rippled through the villagers. Some laughed bitterly. Others shook their heads in disbelief. The elder sneered, "Then you are a fool. Do you know what your words mean?" Daniel nodded. "They mean I will not abandon them." A murmur spread quickly through the crowd. The elder raised his hand for silence. His eyes narrowed. "Very well. If you claim them, then by our old laws you have bound yourself to them. Do you even know what you've done?" The mother gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. She whispered, "No, it cannot be." The little girl's eyes widened with hope. The law says they can't throw us out now, right?" The elder's face darkened. He turned slowly, his voice echoing. "Yes, child, the law is clear. If an outsider accepts an outcast as family, then the clan must honor it. No one may deny it, not even me." The crowd erupted. Some shouted angrily. Others cursed Daniel's name. "A human cannot bind us." One man yelled, "The law is old, forgotten." Another woman cried, but the elder raised his staff and struck it against the ground. The sound silenced them. His eyes were cold as he spoke. "The law is not forgotten, and we are bound by it. This human has claimed them, and so we must accept it." The little girl smiled, tears streaming down her face. She clung to Daniel's hand with all her strength. "You saved us," she whispered. But Daniel noticed the anger in the crowd, their faces twisted with hatred, their eyes promised danger. He had forced them to obey the law, but he had not won their hearts. The elder's voice cut through the murmurs. "But remember, human, acceptance does not come freely. Our laws also demand proof. If you truly wish to bind yourself to them, then you must prove your worth. You must show that you are strong enough to carry the weight of this bond." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "And how do I prove that?" The elder smirked. "Through the trial of fire, you must face the beast that guards our valley. If you survive, then your bond stands. If you fall, then the curse takes you and their shame returns." The mother gasped again. Her hands trembled as she stepped forward. "Please, no. He doesn't know your ways. He cannot fight your beast." The elder ignored her, his eyes locked on Daniel. "Do you accept, human? Or will you break your word and abandon them before all of us?" The villagers watched eagerly, some with cruel smiles, hoping to see him fail. Others with fear, whispering about the beast. Daniel could feel their hunger for his downfall. He turned his eyes to the mother. She shook her head desperately, tears running down her face. "Don't do this. You don't owe us this much. You've already done enough." The beast roared, the sound shaking the pit. Dust rained from the rocks above. Then it charged, its claws tearing the ground. Daniel leapt to the side, the wind of its charge nearly throwing him off his feet. He rolled, came up quick, and thrust the spear. The beast roared, the sound shaking the pit. Dust rained from the rocks above. Then it charged, its claws tearing the ground. Daniel leapt to the side, the wind of its charge nearly throwing him off his feet. He rolled, came up quick, and thrust the spear. A family's future. The pit was silent except for Daniel's heavy breathing. The beast lay lifeless, its glowing eyes now dark. The villagers stood frozen, their torches flickering in the night air. None of them laughed now, none of them sneered. They had witnessed something no one thought possible. A human had faced the guardian beast, and survived. The little girl was the first to move. She broke through the crowd and scrambled down into the pit. Her small hands reached for Daniel, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You did it! You did it, human!" she cried. Her voice rang louder than the elders' chants, louder than the whispers of fear. Daniel staggered, his legs shaking. His shoulder burned from the wound, his clothes torn, blood staining his chest. Yet when the girl hugged him tightly, he managed a faint smile, his voice weak but steady. "I promised, didn't I?" Above, the mother fell to her knees. Her hands covered her mouth, tears poured down her face. For years, she had carried only shame, only scorn. And now before her eyes, a man who owed her nothing had risked his life to save her and her daughter. The elder finally stepped forward. His voice broke the silence, but there was no strength in it now. "The law has spoken. The trial is done. The human has proven his worth. By law, the curse is lifted. The clan must accept him, and with him, the outcast." Gasps echoed. Some villagers dropped their torches in disbelief. Others muttered angrily. "It cannot be," one said. "The law is too old," another protested. But no one dared challenge the elder, not after what they had seen with their own eyes. Daniel slowly climbed out of the pit, the girl helping him as best she could. When he reached the top, the mother rushed forward. She caught him as he stumbled, her hands trembling as they pressed against his bloodied arm. "Why?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why would you do this for us? You nearly died." Daniel looked at her, his face pale from pain but his eyes unshaken. "Because no child should beg for her mother's happiness. Because no woman should live in shame she does not deserve. Because walking away would have made me less human." Her lips trembled, her tears spilled again, but for the first time in years, she allowed herself to smile. It was faint, broken, but real. The elder raised his staff high, his voice loud. "It is done. From this night onward, the human is bound to them. By law, no one may cast them out. They are family now, and family must be honored." The villagers bowed their heads, some in anger, some in awe. The law bound them all, whether they liked it or not. The little girl turned to the crowd, her arms wrapped around Daniel. "See, he isn't cursed. My mom isn't cursed. She is kind. She is strong. And now, we are not alone." Her words pierced deeper than any blade. For the first time, the villagers had no answer. They could no longer mock. They could no longer deny. That night, the torches burned low, and the crowd slowly dispersed, leaving only Daniel, the mother, and the child by the pit. The stars above shone brighter, as if the sky itself had witnessed the breaking of chains. The mother sat beside Daniel, still holding his wounded arm. "I don't know what to say. You've given us back our lives." Daniel shook his head slowly. "No, I didn't give you anything. I just reminded them of what they had forgotten, that dignity is not theirs to take." The child snuggled against him, her tiny voice soft. "So, does this mean you're really my dad now?" Daniel's heart softened. He looked down at her, her hopeful eyes wide and innocent. He chuckled weakly. "If that's what you want." She grinned, nodding quickly. "Then you're my dad, and she's your wife. That's how it works." The mother's face turned red. "Yes." He looked away, embarrassed, but deep inside, warmth filled her chest, a warmth she hadn't felt in years. For the first time, she didn't feel cursed. She felt chosen. Daniel leaned back, staring at the stars, his body aching, his mind heavy, but his heart felt strangely light. He hadn't come here searching for family. He hadn't come looking for love. Yet here, in a forgotten village under alien skies, he had found both. The child's voice echoed once more, soft but filled with joy. "You're not alone anymore, and neither are we." Daniel closed his eyes, his lips curved into a faint smile. "No, not anymore." And with that, a human, an alien mother, and her child sat together in the starlight, no longer cursed, no longer outcast, but a family, bound not by law alone, but by choice, by love, and by hope. The price of hope. The night after the trial was quiet, but Daniel knew peace was fragile. The beast was dead. The law had spoken, yet the eyes of the villagers still burned with anger. He could feel it in their stares as they passed, in the silence that followed him wherever he went. The little girl didn't notice. She clung to his side with joy, telling everyone who would listen, "He's my dad now, he saved us." Her laughter was bright, cutting through the heavy air, and for a moment Daniel almost believed things would be different. But the mother saw what he saw. She walked close to him, her voice low. They hate you even more now. Before they despised me, but now they see you as a threat. You broke their fear. You broke their law. They will not forgive easily." Daniel nodded. His body still ached from the wounds of the trial. His arms carried fresh scars, but he had faced worse than hate. He had faced a monster and survived. "Let them hate," he murmured, "as long as they don't touch you or your daughter." The mother's eyes softened, but fear lingered there. She knew their hatred was not finished. That night, as the village slept, shadows moved. A group of men gathered at the edge of the pit where the beast's body still lay. Ear whispers were sharp, filled with anger. "He shamed us, a human, an outsider, killed the guardian. What does that make us? Weak cowards?" Another spat into the dirt. "The law binds us, but we don't have to honor him. We can end him, quietly. No law will protect him then." The group agreed, and their eyes gleamed with malice. The human had won the trial, but his true test had only begun. The next morning, Daniel rose early. His body begged for rest, but his instincts kept him alert. He noticed the villagers avoided him more than usual. They whispered but did not laugh. They stared but did not speak. Something was brewing. The little girl tugged on his hand. "Come see the river, Dad. It's where I used to play before they told me not to. I want to show you." Daniel smiled faintly. Her joy was pure, unbroken even after years of cruelty. "All right, lead the way." The mother followed behind, her eyes scanning the shadows. She felt the tension in the air. She felt the weight of danger pressing closer. At the river's edge, the girl laughed and splashed the water. Her reflection rippled, her innocence unshaken. Daniel crouched beside her, dipping his hand into the cold stream. For the first time since the trial, he felt calm, but the calm broke in an instant. A stone whistled through the air and struck the ground near his feet. Daniel spun around. The mother gasped, pulling her daughter close. From the trees stepped the group of men, their eyes hard, their hands gripping crude weapons. One sneered. "The trial may have saved you, human, but it doesn't make you one of us. You don't belong here. Neither do they." Daniel stood, his body still weak, but his spirit unbroken. He placed himself between the men and the family, his voice steady. "If you want them, you'll have to go through me." The leader laughed darkly. "Gladly." He rushed forward, weapon raised. The others followed. The dirt. The others hesitated, shock flashing across their faces. They had thought the trial had broken him. They had thought his wounds made him weak, but Daniel still fought like fire itself. One swung a club. Daniel ducked, the weapon grazing his back. He countered with a fierce punch that dropped the attacker to his knees. Another lunged, but Daniel kicked him into the river. The splash echoed through the trees. The leader scrambled to his feet, fury twisting his face. "You think you're stronger than us? You think you can take our place?" Daniel's voice was cold. "I don't want your place, I just won't let you hurt them." The man roared and charged again. Daniel sidestepped, grabbed him by the cloak and hurled him into the dirt. The fight was over. The others dragged him back, fear in their eyes now, not anger. "Go," Daniel growled, his chest heaving. "If you ever come near them again, you'll wish the beast had finished me." The men retreated, muttering, but none dared face him again. The little girl ran to Daniel, hugging his leg. "I knew you'd protect us," she whispered. Her faith never wavered. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She stepped closer, her hand trembling as it touched his wounded arm. "You're bleeding again. Why do you keep doing this? Why risk everything?" Daniel looked at her, his voice low. "Because no one else will, because you deserve more than shame, and because she deserves to grow up knowing her mother is safe." Her lips trembled. She lowered her gaze, but a faint smile broke through her tears. For the first time, she let herself believe it. As the suns rose higher, Daniel knew their struggle wasn't over. The law had saved them once, but the villagers' hatred would not vanish overnight. Still, as the child clung to him and the mother stood by his side, he knew one thing. He was no longer a wanderer. He was no longer alone. He had found something worth fighting for. A family. And no matter what price hope demanded, he would pay it. Whispers beyond the village. The village never felt the same after the trial. Daniel had won. The law had bound him, but victory brought no peace. The villagers bowed their heads in front of him, yet their whispers behind his back grew darker each day. Some obeyed the law out of fear, others out of anger. None accepted him in their hearts. The little girl didn't notice. She still laughed and called him Dad with innocent pride. She skipped through the market holding his hand, showing him off to anyone who would listen. The mother walked quietly beside them, her eyes wary. She could feel the weight of the stares, the bitterness that never faded. One evening, as the suns sank low, the elder summoned Daniel to the council hut. The air inside was thick with smoke from burning herbs. The elder's eyes gleamed like coals. "Human," he said slowly, "you have upset the balance. You forced the law upon us. You killed the guardian. And now, others have noticed. Daniel frowned. Others? The elder nodded, his staff tapping against the floor. This village is not alone. We answer to the greater clans, and the guardian beast you killed. It was not only ours, it was sacred to all. They will come, and they will ask why an outsider touched what was forbidden. Daniel's jaw tightened. And if they don't like the answer? The elder's lips curved in a cold smile. Then your battle has only begun. That night, Daniel told the mother what the elder had said. She went pale, fear tightening her features. The greater clans will not forgive this. The guardian was their pride. They will see you as a threat. They will see us as traitors. The little girl hugged her mother tightly. But he saved us. Doesn't that matter? Daniel placed a hand on her head, his voice firm. It matters. To me, to you, but to them, it will be an insult and they will not rest until they test me. The Circle of Blades. Dawn arrived with a blood-red sky. The villagers gathered outside the settlement, their faces pale with fear and curiosity. In the center of the clearing, a circle of stones had been drawn into the dirt. Torches surrounded it, flickering in the cold morning air. This was the Circle of Blades, the place where warriors fought to prove honor, or to die. Daniel stood at the edge of the circle, his body still aching from the beast's trial. His wounds had not fully healed, yet his spirit remained unbroken. The little girl clung to his hand, her small fingers trembling. Please, don't go in there, she whispered. They'll try to kill you, all of them at once. Daniel knelt down, placing a hand on her shoulder, his voice calm. I have to. If I don't, they'll take you and your mother. Do you trust me? Her eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. I trust you. The mother stood behind her, her face pale, her hands clenched. She had begged him all night to walk away, but his answer never changed. Now she could only watch as the man who had risked everything for them prepared to risk even more. The elder raised his staff, his voice echoing. The law demands proof. The greater clan demands justice. The human has chosen to fight, and so the Circle of Blades will decide his fate. The warriors of the greater clan stepped forward, 4 of them, tall and armored, their blades gleaming. Their leader sneered, We do not fight beasts today, human. We fight each other, and you will not survive. Daniel stepped into the circle, his hands empty, his eyes steady. I don't need to survive, he said quietly. I just need to win. The elder struck his staff against the ground. The circle begins. The first warrior lunged, his blade flashing in the light. Daniel moved quickly, sidestepping. He grabbed a fallen branch from the ground, swinging it like a staff. The ood cracked against the warrior's helmet, sending him stumbling back. The crowd gasped. No one expected the human to strike first. Another warrior rushed in from behind. Daniel spun, blocking the blade with the branch. The wood splintered, but Daniel pushed forward, ramming his shoulder into the warrior's chest. The alien crashed into the dirt, breath knocked out. The villagers erupted into shouts, some in disbelief, others in anger. The mother covered her mouth, unable to breathe. The little girl screamed, Go, Dad, don't stop! The third warrior circled, his eyes narrowed. He swung low, aiming for Daniel's legs. Daniel jumped back, barely avoiding the strike. The blade sliced his thigh, blood running down. Pain burned through him, but he clenched his jaw, refusing to fall. The leader watched, smiling coldly. He bleeds. He weakens. Finish him. The 3 warriors attacked together now, their blades flashing in unison. Daniel ducked, blocked, and rolled across the dirt. His branch finally snapped in 2, leaving him unarmed. The crowd cheered for the warriors, certain it was over, but Daniel's eyes burned with fire. He grabbed a loose stone from the ground and hurled it. The rock struck one warrior's face, shattering his visor. The alien dropped with a cry, blood streaming. Daniel seized the fallen blade, spinning to block another strike. Steel met steel with a sharp ring. The villagers gasped. The human now wielded one of their own weapons. His movements were rough but fierce, his will driving him where skill could not. He fought like a man with nothing to lose. The second warrior came at him again. Daniel parried and shoved him into the third. Both stumbled. Daniel roared, driving his blade forward, striking the ground between them. The force sent dirt flying, startling them. In that moment, he kicked one aside and slashed across the other's arm. The crowd fell silent. No one laughed now. No one sneered. The leader finally stepped forward, his own blade gleaming. Enough, he growled. You've survived longer than expected, but your end is here.